Hi, and welcome to ITC 999's first webinar of the day. I'm Zoe, I'm General Manager of ITC, and I'm here with Charlotte Jones, our CEO. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of how this is going to work, this is actually our first Facebook webinar, so we're really excited. We hope that it's coming across clearly. Please do write a message if we're not loud enough, or if there's anything we can do to help in terms of access. So please do send us a message. So this is part of ITC 999, and that is a virtual open day that we run every year to allow members to access, non-members to access benefits of membership for the day, to get an insight into what it's like to be an ITC member. So we are running a number of webinars on Facebook on different topics. If you want to see what those topics are and the times of them, then they are on our website, or they are also on Facebook. This one that we are doing now is going to be company formation, so sort of setting up your theatre company and all of the things that are involved with that. We are going to start with about a 5-minute or so introduction from Charlotte, who will give us a little bit of a sort of grounding of the topic, and then we'll have some questions. So please do write your questions, and we will answer those in a few moments. And we're going to go for about 20 minutes, and then what will be available on the website will be all the resources that support this topic. So you can go over to our website and have a look at the help sheets and the guidance on the topic and download those, so you've got a bit of extra kind of written support on it as well. Just to mention what's also available as part of ITC 999, we have got all of our training for the autumn term is available at members' rates. So you get a discount on all of the training today if you book today, and we also have a few slots available for one-to-ones with Jackie, our legal and industrial relations manager. So if you have a sort of specific question on a certain topic, if you've got a specific thing you want to go through one-to-one, please do email us at admin@itc-arts.org, and we'll try and fit you in for a one-to-one. And also follow the conversation, tweet us your thoughts, tweet us your questions on Twitter using hashtag ITC999. Right, so we shall kick off. So Charlotte, please do start by telling us a bit more about company formation.
Okay, thanks very much, Zoe. Right, well, company formation, that's probably the biggest thing we get asked about at ITC. Do I have to have a company to run the organisation? Well, obviously not. You can perfectly easily make your work without being formed as a company. But over the next few minutes, I hope we'll give you some idea of why it's a useful idea to form a company, and how to go about it. So of our 500 or so members, at least 95% of them are set up as what we call not-for-profit companies.
Right.
The term that you might have heard is company limited by guarantee. So that means it's not a share company. It's not a commercial company as such. Doesn't mean you can't make any money though. So the company limited by guarantee is kind of most popular structure. And of those 95%, about 80% of them are set up as registered charities. So I guess what we'll discuss a little bit today is being a company and being a charity. So if you are a limited company, that you are set up by what they call a guarantee, which means that each member of the company, and usually a minimum of 2, has to guarantee to pay £1 should the company wind up insolvent. And it's obviously quite a token concept. And that gives you what they call limited liability.
Right.
So your company is essentially the legal body that employs people, that enters into contracts, can sue and be sued, that it exists in its own right as a legal entity, and you do everything under your company. So the individuals in the company are not the kind of personally liable people.
So it wouldn't come down to you as an individual to have to kind of deal with any sort of, I don't know, maybe a debt problem or something like that. It would be the company that's liable.
The company's liable. Obviously, it's limited liability. Not,
yes, it's not go out and
no liability.
Everybody.
That's right. It's limited liability, and obviously you're limited to the level of if you're fraudulent or negligent, the liability will revert to the directors of your company.
Of course. Yeah.
And if you're a simple company limited by guarantee, you will have directors, and those directors will probably be the two of you. So if it's you as an artistic director, maybe as a producer, two directors, you are the legal owners of the company. So that's essentially what that is. We often get asked, a lot about, what the benefits of that are. Why would you form a company?
Absolutely.
A few years ago, it was probably less urgent than it is now. But about 3 years ago, the government brought in this thing called theatre tax relief. And we've got another webinar talking about that later on this afternoon.
We have 2:00, we'll do a finance session that will be talking in more detail about theatre tax relief.
But theatre tax relief is very useful money to our sector. And the one qualifying condition to get theatre tax relief is that you are a limited company. So there's one very, very strong reason for forming a limited company. I would say the other reason is that it protects your name.
Right.
There really isn't any other way of protecting your name. And actually quite a lot of our theatre companies, their names are amazing and very much part of their vision. And they don't want to lose that identity or have somebody else use it and create confusion. So once you have registered the company in your name, no one else can use that name.
Right.
So it's quite a significant benefit. On top of all the other benefits, which is that it's a very simple and usable structure for making your work. It gives you that limited liability. Also, the not-for-profit company is relatively appropriate for various forms of public funding and trust funding. So it kind of opens that door. An awful lot of funders won't fund a share company. Most of them won't.
Yeah.
In order to form the company, you'll need a memorandum of articles, a constitution. This is something that ITC can actually do for companies, but you can also do it yourself.
Yeah.
But we do have a model constitution that we use and enable people to set up with that.
Yeah, that's very useful service if you feel like it's a bit daunting in that sense. But actually, it sounds like quite a simple thing to put together, And is that done through Companies House then?
That's right. So Companies House are where you're registered. And so your constitution, your directors, your accounts each year will all be searchable at Companies House as a sort of public record of your company.
And that's part of the kind of liability.
That's right. Yeah. And actually it's worth knowing as well, when you're dealing with companies, is always look them up on Companies House before you enter into a contract with them.
A really good way of getting an idea of sort of where they're at and what their previous history is.
Very useful snapshot. You get to see what their turnover is, whether they're in debt, who their directors are, who their board members are.
Yeah. And just a quick question. If someone already has your name, any sort of suggestions around that? Should you go for something completely different, a variation?
If the name that you're wanting to register your company as is already in use, yes, the person already or the company already using it does have the right to stop you.
Right.
Sometimes you can create, let's say water closet is a name you want to use, and then you want to set yourself up as a water closet theatre company. Wouldn't advise it, but it might it might be that you could use the same words with the theatre company on the end.
Sure.
But quite honestly,
Yeah, or productions
I
or
would
something.
find another name.
Yeah, go for
if you're
something different.
Yeah, if that's already in use. So that's something obviously we can do for you as well, is to check the names availability.
Super. So you mentioned earlier that a lot of ITC members are registered as charities, have charitable status. And can you tell us a little bit more about the benefits of charitable status?
Yeah, well, charitable status is not a company structure as such.
Right.
It goes on top of your company structure. So it's a recognition of a special tax status.
Right. Okay.
And theatre companies or performing arts companies can register as charities under educational objects. So you might have in your constitution objects that sound something like to advance education for the public benefit through the production of theatre or dance or opera or music theatre or whatever it is you're going to do. And on the whole, it's relatively easy to get a theatre company registered under those objects. They will check, obviously, to see that your work is of public value, but it's not it's not like applying for a funding bid to the Arts Council and having to give a really detailed account of your artistic vision. It's more sort of generic than that.
Is it useful to have been having had a few years doing the work you're doing prior to sort of applying for charitable status to give you that, I suppose, to give you that proof that the work you're doing is charitable?
It can be useful. Your track record can be helpful, although in some cases, if your track record is non-charitable or even against the kind of principles of the Charity Commission, it can get in your way.
Okay.
So yes, it depends what your track record is.
Sure.
So yes, thinking about the benefits of it, why would you do that? I would think one of the strongest benefits is that you can receive the benefits of tax-exempt giving. And for quite a lot of our smaller companies, that's often their best way of collecting some money to get the company together to begin with. So it means, for example, that if you have a relative or a friend who's prepared to give you £100 towards your company, you'll receive the £100 from your friend and also the £33 that they have paid tax on that.
Right.
It's grossed up.
Yeah.
So you'll get £133. And obviously that can be for large gifts as well.
Yeah.
So
and gift aid sort of works?
that's gift aid.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
It's called gift aid.
Right, okay. Yeah.
So that's a very strong benefit.
Yeah.
Another benefit, obviously, is that it opens up the door to a lot more funding opportunities. Some of the major trusts and foundations can give to non-charities, but I think it gives you the edge. And some of the smaller foundations can only give to other registered charities.
Right, so they're not actually able
They're
to.
not actually able to. It's not just a decision or a whim of theirs. It's actually their own constitutions won't allow them to transfer money to anything other than another charity. So it does help. I think it also helps from a credibility point of view. The fact that the Charity Commission has agreed that you're of educational value, and that doesn't mean you have to do everything in schools or colleges, but it does mean that you have an educational value. I think it gives you a certain kind of level of credibility. There's also access to benefits in kind. There are quite a lot of organisations out there who are very happy to give cheaper rehearsal space or even free rehearsal space to charities, to give marketing advice and a range of things. So it does open doors, I think.
Yeah. And it can work with sort of corporate social responsibility for larger firms as well.
Yeah,
they
that's
might,
right.
In my experience, we had some employees of a large bank that came in and actually did some painting of this sort of theatre space, and that was part of because they.
This is when you were at
This is when I was at Greenwich and Lewisham Young People's Theatre, now known as Tramshed, they came in and they did some volunteering for us, but that was part of them wanting to help charities.
Yeah,
so I suppose there's those types of benefits.
Absolutely,
yes. So in terms of if you one of the things that I'm aware of is if you become a charity, you need a board, and there's a little bit of sort of can be a bit of anxiety around that. Can you tell us a little bit about
Sure.
boards and the benefits of
Yeah,
boards?
indeed. If you become a charity, you will need what they call a board of trustees, and they're your board of directors. So you don't have a board of directors and a board of trustees.
Right.
Your directors become your trustees, and there are a few very important rules around that. If you're a charity, your trustees have to be volunteers, so they mustn't be receiving any financial or even actual benefit from the company. So they can't be an employee of the company. So you, as the artistic director, would not be able to be on the board. You might find out there are some older companies where the artistic director is on the board, and that's because their constitution predates the point at which the Charity Commission made it absolutely obligatory that they're volunteers. So they have to be volunteers, they have to be independent from each other and from the people working within the company. They are the legal owners of the company, and they're legally and financially responsible for the company. So it does sound a bit formidable when you're thinking about giving up your company to them, but hopefully we can discuss how it can be useful as well. So those board members, they are the trustees, as we said. You need a minimum of 3, so that's to be your quorum. So you can't make any decisions with any less than 3.
Right.
I'd suggest that 3 is probably slightly too few, because obviously if someone's not there, you're going to be stuck. That's right. So I would say probably a board of about 5 is optimum for a small-based company. So they, as we said, they have to be volunteers. Essentially what you're looking for in a board member is somebody who absolutely buys into the vision of your company, who completely understands and is passionate about what you're trying to do. That's probably far more important than the kind of skill set that they might have. I mean, a lot of people get slightly obsessed about thinking, oh, I've got to have an accountant and a lawyer and another artistic director. Be very careful, actually, about having any of those people on your board. Lawyers and accountants tend to their opinion tends to carry more weight with groups of people. It's much more important that your board is able to act in a collegiate way, to accept their joint and several liability and responsibility. Obviously, as volunteers, they're not going to be doing the day-to-day running of the company. That they delegate to people like the artistic director or the producer or whoever it is that it's their company. But they probably need to meet at least 4 times a year, quarterly, to receive quarterly accounts. They do need to make significant decisions about the financial viability of the company, whether the company is staying within the law, whether it's staying within its objects. So if you started doing work that was wildly different from your educational objects, the trustees would have a responsibility to make sure that the company got back to its mission, if you like.
So it's about hearing in those meetings, you'll not only go through the finances of the company, so you can have a good idea of where the company is financially, but you'll also hear about sort of the future plans, the future projects you're going to be working on, and that sort of thing.
That's right. They have a strategic role. They have a role to support the people within the company, and they have that financial sort of stewardship of the company is very important. So yes, you do need a board. But they can be a huge benefit, to be perfectly honest. Having extra people with that level of vision and passion about your work is really useful. They can really add to the sort of networking and advocacy potential of your company. They can bring you elements of advice and opinion and support. Somebody to talk to. I mean, it can be a very isolating role, being artistic director or producer of a small company. So having that board on board is really useful. You do need to engage with them, though. I think the one thing that is probably a huge danger is if you allow the board to become split off from the company, or to start, or if you don't inform them properly, they're going to be liable. So you need to make sure that they can make decisions based on the absolute truth.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And in terms of sort of thinking about if you were setting up a board, or you even wanted to develop your own board, and you were maybe struggling to be able to come up with a way of promoting that, because though it's not a huge amount of time for someone to be involved, it's obviously coming to meetings, and there is that responsibility. Any tips on sort of how to convince, maybe not the right word, but to recruit? What are the benefits to a board member?
So we've talked about what the benefits of being a company are, what the benefits of being a charity are, and now it's how you sell the idea of being on a board. Well, surprisingly enough, there are quite a lot of people out there who are quite interested and keen to be on a theatre company's board. I think for a lot of people, they do actually want to support the arts and to support theatre activity, but it's not their day job, and they haven't got time to do it all the time. I think it's hugely useful as well as sort of leadership and professional development. And actually, I would be much more inclined to be interested in having a board member who understood the value to themselves, rather than it just being an idea of being a sort of philanthropic activity. I think you need to make it worth their while, make it fun, engage them in the work, engage them in good conversations. But it can be a challenging responsibility. Obviously, they are liable when things go wrong. And actually, for an awful lot of boards, if something really horrible happens within the company, they suddenly are very busy trying to sort it out. And that's something they need to give. But I think for an awful lot of people, that challenge is also interesting. So
you learn a lot from it that you might not get in your role as your normal role.
So yes, I think it can be a benefit, but you have to make it work. You have to make it a creative and exciting experience for them, and make it worth their while. So
fantastic. So we are about a couple of minutes off the end of this particular session. Please do, if you have any questions, please feel free to get in contact with us. We can always reply to your email today. If anything that we've discussed here, sort of later on in the day, you think, oh, okay, I actually have a question about that particular thing, do send us an email. We hope that you will join us for the next session, which is going to start at 2 o'clock.
12 o'clock.
12 o'clock. Oh, I see. There's one has gone missing. So at 12 o'clock. So in just over half an hour, we're going to have the next session, which is going to be on contracts and negotiations. And for the next half an hour, all of the resources that relate to company formation are available on our website. So please do go and have a look and download anything you think might be useful. So yes, so we'll see you again in just over half an hour, 12 o'clock for the next session. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Bye.